What's up everybody, George T from the Wagon here. This week we're going to be going into my motor. We're going to be digging into it, we're going to be cleaning it and doing a couple of upgrades on it. Also I'll give you an update on where we're at parts wise and what we're waiting on to do the IRS conversion in my bus. We are still waiting on parts, so we're not going to be doing any of that fun stuff today. We rolled Goldie out, pick up that sweet little Weddle IRS Super Diff. We got some speed wrenches at the VFW swap meet. We got Dunkel with us. We rolled up in Goldie.
Romp Adventures.
We got some, he's gonna make some nice little clocks out of those hubcaps right there, and I got him that speed wrench too. We're speed freaks over here. We got, this is the fire bus. I'm sure some of you recognize it. It was like a giveaway bus that unfortunately was rear-ended by a semi, and Daniel has it as yard art now, and it's Halloween, so it's decorated for Halloween. It's awesome. We are at Artigas Twin on Instagram, Artigas Transaxles. That thing is insane, but a really cool piece of yard art. We took this dude to the store. It's a freaking awesome bay window panel. Not too common there, that's for sure. Definitely not common what's hanging out the back of that dude right there. She scoots. She really scoots. Blow through turbo setup. Moves very nicely. Daniel does all this stuff on his own. He got his Westphalia upholstery in town from Lee. I believe he got this bus from our buddy Miguel. It's a beautiful specimen. Really cool bus. Love it. Sheet metal brake, and you can build yourself one of these. This is Daniel's 56 2800cc Type 4. Beautiful bus. It's got some sleek wheels on it.
Mid-engine, so you won't have to somewhere.
So that's the part there that we actually came for. Weddle Super Diff, IRS. This is going to go into my transaxle. And everybody is sold out of these, and Daniel had 3 of them in stock and was gracious enough to sell me one. Super stoked on that. Shout out to Artigas Twin. We made some progress on the trailing arms. We got them painted, and this is the product I used on this one. The VHT Specialty Products epoxy paint. It's supposed to be a little more weather resistant, and with the way I drive my bus, I just want to make sure that we're giving it some longevity. There's the shackles right there, tie downs, and the spring plates. These were done in the VHT chassis black. That'll be a good comparison. I'll see which one's more durable as we're installing them. Got those coated. Got our bushings in from Mosberg West. Michael hooked me up with one of his specialty modified drag links for the steering box, and I got my steering box pedal as well. Went by Michael's shop and visited him last week. So waiting on my side cover so I can get my gearbox, or the gearbox over at Hanson's. I need to get him those parts. Waiting on my box coming in from Old Speed for that, and I'll give you guys updates as I go along. So there's quite a few mods that or upgrades and repairs I need to do to this. We're going to be changing this alternator out. We're going to remove the valve covers, clean them up, put new seals on them, and then check the valves. We're going to basically go through and just clean the exterior of my carburetors, also check on the jets, and we're going to be pulling plugs on it, do a plug reading on the vehicle. While I have the fan shroud off to do my alternator swap, my velocity stack I welded back in here fell off. I left a flashlight in my engine compartment. The fan sucked it up and blew my velocity stack back off. So we're going to put that back on as well and give it a good thorough cleaning. That's my velocity stack there. Some people don't know about these, but what they do is they speed up the air going into your fan. So we removed the carbons, removed all our wiring from this. If you're doing this in a vehicle, make sure your battery is disconnected, both positive and negative. We've removed the strap. On my particular way I have mine set up, I removed this upper breather line that goes from the case vent to my breather box. So that's out of the way so this can lift. But I have this conduit that I made here for my wires, and I have it mounted here in the center. I don't know how well the camera's picking that up, but that right there is where it's mounted. So my fan shroud can come off independent and my plug wires stay in place. My big 4-gauge wire for my alternator will stay in place, and the wiring for the engine that goes to all the sensors all stays in place there when that fan shroud's removed. We're going to remove the doghouse vent. That's going to allow us to pull the shroud up once we actually get the 2 bolts off of the side of it. So 10 millimeters on the side there. This is going to have a Phillips screw on it. That one there will have a Phillips screw as well, or flathead depending if you're stock or not. We're going to move the throttle cable. You see this? Loosen that clamp up, slide the tube in, and that way the shroud can come up. So looking at that guy right there, see I got a little bit of moisture buildup right there, and you see what happens is the dirt collects to it, and that's going to affect your cooling. So we're going to give this a very thorough cleaning. Got some happening right there as well. So my cooler shows a little bit of moisture right there. Probably put a new seal on this. We're going to be grounding the new alternator. One of the important things about these alternators is they recommend a minimum of I believe in their paperwork it's a 10-gauge wire that you're going to put to that ground and put it to your engine block. We're going to do ours in a 8-gauge wire. So next step is remove this. I'm going to be replacing my pulley, even though I don't have my Ross Wolf lower. Look at the groove that's in that guy right there. I must have been rolling with my belt far too tight, but I'm sure that affected it when I was adjusting it. 10 millimeter, the 4 that hold your generator or alternator in, and we're gonna have one more additional on this burg linkage that we're gonna be removing. So a nut driver or a ratchet. We separated the alternator and the fan from the fan shroud. So I'm going to separate the alternator and fan from each other on the backing plate. Have this independent so we can switch it out. But when I get all this stuff separated, this is all going to go in the hot tank and get cleaned. I'm going to take all my tins off my motor and clean them. When I'm working on an alternator, I have a spare junky chrome pulley. Keep the Woodruff key on it. When you know it's locked in on the Woodruff key, you can now put this into a vise without damaging anything here. And it makes it workable to where you can take this 36 millimeter nut off the back side of it. Tins are stripped down. All this darkness here indicates that we have a leak at our oil tower. So we're going to address that. You can see a little bit of a trail going that way, and this may be from washing my motor actually also, because I usually simple green it up really well. But if you saw in that time lapse, there's a big old chunk of metal right there. This was part of a flashlight. It's actually not a flashlight. It's a light that magnetizes onto place, and I had it on top of my tank. It got sucked into the fan. I got all the pieces out except for this. So this was laying over here on number 2 cylinder. That's never good, because that affects airflow on that. There's a chunk of it right there, like stuck in my head. So I'll have to dig that sucker out. And this is the reason my velocity stack broke off from my shroud. So you can see it completely ripped the metal where I had it welded in place, because this fan went in there, or this light went in there, caught in this dude, and as soon as the fan swung around, just ripped that right out. We're going to get these cooling tins cleared up again. Since I have the tins off, I'm going to do a retorque on my heads. First, we're going to pull all the spark plugs out, inspect them, look at them. But we're going to do a retorque on the head, and when you do a retorque on the head, you do it in the same order that you do it when you're applying the head the first time. There's a numerical sequence to doing that. We will take the exhaust off of it when we do that, just to make sure we get a nice true torque on it. Rockers will have to come off as well. Got the majority of the junk off of it. This had a lot of wetness around it and a lot of dirt collecting to it, so I know that this is leaking. It might even just be a very small leak, but it's still leaking, so we're going to change the seals in the doghouse. I've got my plugs pulled. We're going to go over those. And right now I'm going to pull my rockers off so we can get the heads torqued on it. So whenever I pull my plugs, I number them according to the cylinder that they're removed from, and this is going to give you an indicator of how your car is running. So you're looking at the coloring of the firing area. You're looking at the depth of how far that's burning down. You're looking at your gap, this gap here, to see, and I can tell that this electrode is slightly burned. I do run an MSD ignition, which does require a much larger gap than factory, so if you're looking at those and freaking out, these have a 50 gap per recommended by MSD when you add the actual 6AL digital box to the firing. And I have an MSD distributor. My full ignition system is MSD. So everything, in my opinion, looks like it's running fairly well on my vehicle, so I'm really not going to make any changes as far as that goes. This is the best indicator of how your vehicle is running right there. When you're removing your rockers, you never want one of the rockers in a depressed situation like this. There is a point where you can get it adjusted to where all 4 of them are raised, if not loose. So we're going to try and get it to that point right now. So we're rotating the engine until we find the spot where all 4 of them will be up, and it's coming right here. So you see this one going up, these are all staying stationary. So right about there. Look at that. So now all 4 of them are going to be in a relaxed state, so we can remove the rocker without putting too much stress onto our hardware. And this is very important also, like my motor where you have the dual springs. If you were to have one of those depressed, you start loosening it, there's a good chance you could snap a stud, strip a bolt out or a nut out, you know, just make yourself problems. So set your rockers up to be removed, and we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So fairly recently, I changed out my pushrod tubes and my pushrods themselves. I had one of them that the end was wearing off of. And at that time, because the motor was in the car, I did not torque my heads because I didn't have access to my upper and lower bolts. So we're gonna go through and do that now that I've taken the time to remove the rockers. We already have the tins off. We're gonna go through the torquing sequence on the heads right now. We got the hardware out of there. I'm gonna go up and clean all these pockets. I'm gonna turn the motor over, spray that with some brake cleaner, get it really nice and clean. Make sure we don't have any old oil on it, any old sealant. And we're gonna apply some new sealant on all 4 of those right there and get it retorqued. All right, so I've gone in here and I've removed all the old sealant and cleaned up the surface. I've taken the hardware over to my solvent tank and got it all cleaned up in there. I'm gonna hit everything here with denatured alcohol, and then we'll start applying the hardware. Hardware areas are all cleaned up. We're gonna start applying some sealant here. I put it on the washer, and I also put some on the threads of the nuts as I'm putting them on. So we got sealant on these bottom 4. If you saw in that time lapse, I put some Croil on each one of these. And the reason for that is we're torquing them out, and I don't want to get a false torque because it's dry and it's hitting some debris. I put a little bit of Croil so it's a lubricated torque on it. So happy with that. We're going to throw the rockers back on this side and basically do the exact same thing to the other side. Because we set the valves up to where there's no stress on these, look how much thread we have on there. If you were to do this without setting it up, you would be grabbing 1 or 2 threads and trying to tighten that sucker down. I've also made sure that all my lash caps move freely. The lash caps are those things that cover the valve stem right there. And now we're going to torque these down. These go torque to 18 foot-pounds. Make sure that your push rods are seated into the cups if you have sweep foot rockers like I do there. So you saw, so I got that little bit of tension I had on that one. Once we get the other side down, we'll go through and adjust the valves. Cleaned, resealed this side, retorqued that head. The cleaning was the big thing. This one was filthy. Really went in there and just cleaned it out very well. Going to be changing my seals on this. Hopefully with resealing the 4 inside the valve cover area there, that'll help with some of the wetness I was getting on the back side over here. You can even see that. This is most likely just valve cover gasket, but all this will be addressed as we're reassembling it. I may even take the flywheel like we did on Dunkel's and just reseal all my plugs, because I always seem to have a drip happening here, and it's not a rear main seal. The rear main seal is in excellent shape. It's not the cam plug. So I'm thinking maybe the same problem I had on Dunkel's bus, I need to pull my plugs out and maybe put some JB Weld on them as I put them back in. I'm also going to change both of the crush washers on my relief plugs, because both of these have a little bit of tendency to drip. Got the new Berg pump ordered and coming. This is a Berg pump in here, but I'm replacing it with a new one because I'm getting a new pressure relief cover for it. I figured I might as well. That way everything's fresh and new in there. And if there's nothing wrong with this, I always have a spare Berg 30mm pump, which I'm stoked on that. Your boy's almost to 1,000 subscribers. We're at like 860, 859, 858, somewhere around there. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you know somebody that's into air-cooled VWs and they don't know about this channel, let them know about it. Share it with them. Hopefully, at some point, when you're looking up repair videos, you'll see a video cut from me on whatever repairs need to happen. Also, if you got a repair you want to see done, leave in the comments below.